Hey Emma,
Yes, Madelyn.
what do you call it when an NCAA school is cursed that in their home games they can never make long basketball shots that are worth more scoring?
I don't know. What do they call it?
They call it a 2-point campus. Hello and welcome to Talk This.
It's dangerous to podcast alone.
I was inspired by last week's sports episode.
There's a surprising amount of sports in this episode.
Yeah. Well,
By which you mean
depends
any.
if you consider, like, graffiti a sport, but yeah.
I just mean the lore of the Epic Mickey development has a surprising amount of
true.
sports.
You're right. There is a surprising amount of sports, so we're really prepared. I'm also prepared from the NBA 2K ads that I started to get immediately after recording last week's episode.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm your mischievous and heroic host, Madelyn.
I'm your evil and mean host, Emma.
And thanks for tuning into this week's show. This week, our two games are Epic Mickey and 2-Point Campus. Mickey Mouse goes to college.
Can't believe they made a whole spin-off series from that mouse from Kingdom Hearts.
It's crazy, right? He's such a minor character in Kingdom Hearts. And they made a whole spin-off series. This whole episode, listeners, is just going to be me being like, this is a Kingdom Hearts game. I was really prepared for it not to be. I was really like, it's a separate game. Don't make Kingdom Hearts jokes the whole time. Like, everybody knows how we feel about that fine piece of rat. But the more I read about Epic Mickey, the more I was like, this is Kingdom Hearts. So...
Well, it's interesting because it sort of came about from seemingly Disney wanting to get into video games without having to, like, share profits with Square Enix. So, in some ways, it is a response to Kingdom Hearts, but not quite in that way.
Joke's on you. Only Nomura knows what to do with Mickey, and it's to turn him into a villain.
That, what's the Dreamlight Valley thing they just released? Apparently doing pretty well.
Yeah. Disney.
It's got a very
Disney
sparkly
Stardew.
Mickey in it.
It's what?
It's got a very sparkly Mickey in it.
Of course it does. It can't be Dreamlight Valley. Valley can't be the right.
Just Dreamlight something.
It is Dreamlight something, but if it was Valley, people would be like, I don't know, like, kind of stealing.
You can't
Dreamlight
copyright the word
Plain.
valley.
I know you can't, but it would be just a little obvious. I have to look it up now. Oh, it is Dreamlight Valley.
That's
wow.
what I thought.
It's just like a little bit, whatever. It just tempts me back to Stardew over and over and over again. Anyway, let's dive into the Epic Mickey lore that no doubt I would really like Mickey Mouse from acclaimed series Kingdom Hearts to meet Mickey Mouse from not really acclaimed series Epic Mickey in Kingdom Hearts. I think that'd be really funny. I hope Sora plays Epic Mickey.
I think they should bring in Oswald
Probably.
as the villain, as he was originally intended to be in Epic
No,
Mickey.
as the hero. Mickey is the villain in Kingdom Hearts.
Well, okay, as the rival to Mickey.
I really think Sora should play this game in Kingdom Hearts 4. That would be the funniest thing I've ever seen. Like in Sega, our second game is Sega, so I'm talking about Sega. Like in Sega games where they have like arcades or where they have like any game that has like in-game mini games.
Mm-hmm.
Kingdom Hearts 4 should have a complete copy of Epic Mickey.
That's the fabled remaster.
There it is.
That's apparently coming at some point. It's coming in a game.
Anyway, Epic Mickey, if you haven't heard of it, which I do remember this game coming out.
Yeah. I remember, I feel this was, what was it, 2010?
2010.
Yeah. 2010 was definitely in that period where I was less playing video games as a youth. But even then, I feel like I was aware of, like, the hype surrounding its release, and, like, then the subsequent, like, oh, this isn't what I thought it was going to be.
Deflation of hype.
The original Cyberpunk 2077.
Oh man, what I would give for a Cyberpunk Mickey Mouse game. Anyway, Epic Mickey, as Emma said, is a 2010 platformer/adventure game for the Wii, developed by Junction Point Studios and published by Disney Interactive Studios, which would eventually kill both of those studios.
Yes.
That's what Mickey Mouse does. He traps you in the land of death.
That is sort of what Disney was doing around this time.
Trapping everyone in the land of death.
Buying things and then closing them.
Well, in any case, in Epic Mickey, you play as Mickey Mouse. I feel like this is what happens in Fantasia, right? Like, yeah. Mickey, does some mischief with Yen Sid and things ensue, right?
Yeah, Yen Sid is, doing something cool, magic thing, and Mickey's like, I can do that. And in fact, Mickey cannot do that.
So he's wrong. In this case, Yen Sid has built a very detailed, Disneyland model. Which, even a wizard's got to have hobbies.
Well, it's actually like a refugee thing. He's allowing forgotten characters to live inside this created town that he's made for them.
You're right. He's built a model of Disneyland to serve as a refugee camp.
Yeah.
For, forgotten Disney characters. And Mickey is, hanging out in Yen Sid's castle, and he's like, I know how to paint, too. But instead, he accidentally creates the Shadow Blot, which is inspired by the Phantom Blot, I think, from a series of Mickey Mouse comics. There's a lot of stuff here that it's wow, if you're a comics Disney fan, wow, have you got a lot of Easter eggs and stuff in this game.
Really just deep cuts Disney a little
exactly. Bit. If you're a real fan.
Yeah.
Oh, you're a Disney fan? Name 3 movies.
Oh no.
Not that. Name 3 characters from the 1940 short films. But basically Mickey makes this blot. He tries to erase it, but he fails to erase it, and then in classic Mickey fashion, he just leaves. He's it's fixed. I gotta go.
Yeah.
And then he gets popular. Decades later, the blot returns for him. He's a big popular Mickey Mouse dude now, but the blot says, hey, you're gonna come to the wasteland, which is what's happened to the beautiful Disneyland-inspired world of Yen Sid. It's now the scary, blighted wasteland.
Yeah. I guess Yen Sid just never checked on them all these years.
Yeah, I mean, look, he's busy, conducting, right? I don't know, this...
I'm just saying, if Mickey hadn't, spilled lots of paint thinner on them, I think they would have been covered in dust and died that way. That's all I'm saying.
Air pollution is no joke.
Yeah. They need, the great feather dusting to come through, every couple months.
Look, I don't know. Well, there's, dancing feather dusters in Fantasia, right? That probably happens.
Are there feather dusters? I can only remember the brooms.
Okay, you're right. But a broom would be fine, too. A little less gentle, perhaps. You have to be careful. But the dust, could go somewhere. Look, Yen Sid has had a lot to do in Kingdom Hearts. I don't know if you've been following that series. So, the man is busy, and frankly, Mickey Mouse is getting up to a bunch of other mischief.
True.
So, he probably just didn't even notice that he, spilled a little paint.
True.
So anyway, you get sucked into this Shadow Blot world with all these very, very early Disney creations, including Oswald the Lucky Rabbit, which we'll tell a fun anecdote about in a little bit. And basically, the idea being that you've got to fix it, right? You got to fix it. You got to fix the wasteland. You got to turn it back into its nice version from before, and defeat the Shadow Blot, and convince Oswald not to be jealous of your fame. And that's Epic Mickey. Oh, and you do that with painting mechanics.
Yes. Mickey has paint and thinner that he can use. which you can use both to solve various problems, although using thinner is usually the bad way to do it.
Yes. There's a very light and perhaps nerfed from what it was intended to be morality system in Epic Mickey, which it seems like there's some, like, here's how the choices you made affected the world kind of stuff that happens at the end.
Yes, just at the very end, you get like a here's where they are now thing based on how you solved problems.
Yeah.
But it was supposed to be a lot more extensive, at least in like initial concepts. It seems like they went through with development for like the idea that it would change Mickey's appearance a little bit based on what you did throughout the game.
Which was, of course, very hot in 2010, right?
Yeah, yeah. Which, like, seems to have gotten to the point where they had, like, models for that. And there's also concept art, which is just concept art, and we can talk a little bit about that, too, of, like, evil Mickey that's, like, fused with the blot. I think they should bring that into Kingdom Hearts, honestly.
Scary. Did you see the one of, like, Mickey, like, one head is Mickey and one head is, like, another robot head?
I did not see that one. There's one where, like, the thinner has, like, eroded him, right?
Yeah. It's scary. You should look up the concept art for Epic Mickey, folks, because it puts into context a lot of the, like, response to this game. Like, I'm looking at one that's, like, a robot, and it has, like, all of these, like, old Disney, like, Goofy is, like, his head is on, like, a tentacle.
There is a disembodied Goofy head in the game, to be fair.
Sure, it cannot possibly look like this.
He's like in like a glass case, like his head has been like trapped there. I don't know. Donald too.
I mean, it's the wasteland. What can you expect?
Yeah, so I guess we can talk a little bit about that. So, one of the things that happened during like development is some stuff leaked. Some concept art was leaked from development. And it was, like, really, like, extreme and wild and dark and weird. And people really responded to it. But, concept art, here's a lesson. Concept art often, especially early concept art, often does not actually reflect the game that gets made. Especially when you're working with a partner like Disney. Like, in subsequent interviews about it, Warren Spector, who's the director on this, who was also System Shock and Deus Ex before this, so big guy at the time, was saying, like, when they started working with Disney, they made, like, these really extreme concept arts so that they could send them to Disney and find out where the line for Disney was.
Yeah.
Right? Like, when you're trying to get something in the middle, you don't send exactly what you want at first, right? You send something, like, way beyond expectations of what they would allow you to do. And then you whittle it back down until you're where you want it to be in the first place. Even though the company you're working with doesn't know that. Which especially, like, it seems like Disney gave them a lot of freedom on this project, but they're still a very, like, they're image-based, right? Like, their characters, their iconicness is part of, like, their company. So it makes sense that they wouldn't let them go, like, full what the concept art would imply. But in order to get to someplace a little beyond what you'd think Disney would be comfortable with, that's where you have to start, right? But a lot of people saw this concept art and was like, oh, this is what they're going for, 100%, which is just simply not how development works.
And there are a lot of fun stories about people, like, generating concept art that I feel like I've read over the years that's like, this person asked for this thing, and I know they love polka dots, so I made a monster with a buttload of polka dots on it just to mess with them, kind of stories, I feel like, throughout game development history. But people were maybe not as savvy to that. I mean, I don't think everyone is savvy to that now, but I think people were definitely not as savvy to that in, like, 2009. Yeah, they should have been. Like, who would ever think? I know part of the point of Epic Mickey was to continue this rebrand of Mickey Mouse, not just as like the cheery mascot, but as like mischievous and a hero and fun, right?
Well, it's less that and more bringing it back to like how he was in Steamboat Willie.
Right.
Where he's kind of a little scamp.
Yeah. But it just feels, well, I don't know. I guess people were less...
People still have no idea how game development works, Madelyn.
I don't mean that people have an idea how game development works. I just feel like people 10 years ago were perhaps a little bit less openly cynical about Disney than is mainstream in some ways now. Obviously, it's not actually mainstream. I don't think most people are as cynical about Disney as, like, many of the kind of media circles that I find myself in. But I do feel like the, like, criticism of their takeover of culture and that sort of thing was a lot less foregrounded. I don't know. I just feel like if you release this concept art type thing for a game now, everyone would be like, there's no way Disney is making that. I don't mean to say that anyone knows any more about game development now than they did then, but I do think that at least some subset of the population knows more about how Disney runs their brand.
Sure. Although, I feel like even going back, like, 10 years ago, 12 years ago, Disney was not... It was, you know, it's huge. It's always been huge, but it's not... They hadn't bought Marvel yet.
Right.
I don't think. Right?
I'm not sure, but...
They at least definitely hadn't, like, launched the whole, like, MCU and stuff like that. They hadn't bought Fox yet.
Yeah.
Either. So, like, I feel like the sort of media swallowing that they've been doing was not something that was there yet. As well. So, of course, people had different perceptions about Disney in 2010 than they do today.
Definitely. In any case, that concept art leaking was probably, like, really bad for the game, to be honest. Because, as Emma said, it set expectations for this very dark and twisted take on Mickey Mouse. Which, like, you'd think you'd read the title Epic Mickey and be like, okay, this can't be these, like, twisted Cyclops robot Mickey drawings. Like, that title is too silly for that, but whatever. And so when it actually came out and was just, like, Mickey Mouse doing Drawn to Life, people were not thrilled about that. The first one,
it is still darker and aesthetic than a lot of cartoon Disney stuff.
It absolutely is. And I think that what I'm trying to say is, had that concept art not gotten people so stoked for something that was impossible, I do wonder if there would have been a different trajectory for this game and this series.
Maybe, although, I don't know. It's sort of just an okay game, anyway.
Right. That is the problem. The game is maybe not good enough. Apparently
they were initially making it, and I think this probably had an impact on the final product as well, but they were initially making it as a PS3, Xbox, PC game. And then we're talking about doing a port on Wii, which would have taken, more work and, like, adjustments to the design. And then at some point they were like, actually, it's a Wii exclusive. Which, of course, required different design work and changes to the design. Like, I wonder how much of the design they ended up with, like, the paint and thinner stuff was because of, like, using the Wiimote and Nunchuck, for instance.
Yeah.
And how much of that was how they originally wanted to do it.
I guess we'll never know.
There's an official Epic Mickey Nunchuck, by the way, which on its packaging says, like, a real chuck or something, which I did not know that's how they referred to them as.
What?
I thought it was always a nunchuck, but I guess the nunchuck is the one that comes with it, and everything else is, like, a different chuck.
And so this is a real chuck?
Well, it's, like, official Chuck. It's an official Chuck. It's not like a third-party Chuck. It's like a...
Stop saying Chuck. So, should we talk about Oswald the Lucky Rabbit a bit?
Sure. Tell us about Oswald, Malin.
So, Oswald the Lucky Rabbit, you may be familiar with, if you're familiar with, like, old school Disney stuff, is a character that, like, in many ways doesn't look like that different from Mickey Mouse, right? Like, he's, like, very much that same style. Like, he's got ears.
He's a rabbit.
He's a rabbit. But he's like a Mickey Mouse looking rabbit, I would say. And so he was he was this very, very early Disney creation who had these shorts alongside things like Steamboat Willie and whatever. But Disney lost the rights to Oswald the Lucky Rabbit at some point to...
Well, I think specifically Walt Disney was making these Oswald shorts with a different person and a company for Universal.
I see.
And then the person he was working with sort of kicked him out and stole Oswald from him entirely to keep making it for Universal. And that's when he was like, I'm not working for anyone anymore.
Unbelievable that you can trace a direct line to that, from that to Disney buying everything in the world.
Maybe, yeah.
So Universal owned Oswald the Lucky Rabbit until 2006. And so part of the story of Epic Mickey is that the idea for this game, like, originally was come up with in 2003, which is just wild that in those, like, early, again, every time I think I look at anything Disney made from, like, 2000 to 2005 in the game space, it's like, man, you could just say anything to them, and they would do it. Or anything that's like Dark Mickey, and they would do it. But they didn't have the Oswald rights, so they were like, we can't do this. Like, it's a good idea, but we can't do this. And then they saw their opportunity to make the greatest sports trade of all time.
Yeah.
So basically, sportscaster Al Michaels, who was like a pretty big deal, had this deal with ESPN, which was owned by Disney, because Disney owns ESPN, to do the, like, play-by-play calling for Monday Night Football. But he really wanted to work with NBC so he could work with last week's spotlighted video game namesake, John Madden, over there doing play-by-play for Sunday Night Football.
Yeah.
And so Bob Iger saw his opportunity to make Epic Mickey, and he was like, all right, NBC Universal, I'll trade you living sportscaster Al Michaels for cartoon character Oswald the Lucky Rabbit and a few assorted other things. Have we got a deal? And they did have a deal.
It wasn't just for Epic Mickey, by the way.
Okay.
It sounds like Bob Iger just had, like, a weird vested interest in getting Oswald back for some reason.
Sure.
So he's just like, I love that rabbit, I guess.
Let's pretend it was just for Epic Mickey, though.
All right. Okay. Yeah.
Anyway, so then they can move forward, but not before this, like, jumping over into the sports world for a little bit.
Yeah. Apparently, Universal just didn't know they owned this at this point, too, because they hadn't done anything with the character for,
so
like,
funny.
decades. Yeah.
I mean, it would be hard to, right? It's this, like, Mickey Mouse-looking rabbit. Everyone would be like, what is this? You're ripping off Mickey Mouse. Like, no
I
one
guess
would know
so.
what
I
it
don't think it
is.
was a matter of consciously saying, oh, we'll be ripping off Mickey Mouse. I think it's just they stopped making these shorts, like, you know, in the mid-1900s. And then they just forgot it existed.
Relatable. So I have to do the, like, this is a Kingdom Hearts game portion of the episode here. So when Mickey Mouse comes to the wasteland, what is it that the Blot plans to do? Steal Mickey's heart.
Yeah.
Because the inhabitants of this world have lost their own hearts because they've been forgotten And so they can't leave the world because they don't have hearts. What the F? Like, I'm sorry. That's the same story.
Well, and everything. It's not like the setup of Kingdom Hearts is
It's
something
not the setup, but all of those elements appear in Kingdom Hearts.
Sure.
Also, Pete is there.
Yeah.
That's just a joke. But there is also a Tron version of Pete, which I'm like, that's weird. That's a weird thing to throw in there. Also, tie into Mickey Mouse is that Mickey destroys these people's lives and then forgets about it for years.
Yeah. That is a patented Mickey thing to do. In all iterations.
Does not have a good memory.
No. He's really old, to be fair, so.
Especially for a mouse.
Yeah.
Anyway, it was really just the hearts thing that got me. I was like, that can't be the plot of this game. The plot of this game cannot be centered around hearts. I know it's not exactly the same, but it's just like, it just can't be that.
Anyway, Epic Mickey sold pretty well for a Wii exclusive.
Mm-hmm.
So Disney told them pretty immediately, like, okay, do Epic Mickey 2. They somehow, I didn't look into the development of this as much as I wanted to, but somehow there was Epic Mickey 2 and like a DS game called Epic Mickey Power of Illusion. They released on the same day for some reason. I don't know how financials or marketing works, but whatever. And they both did not sell very well. And then pretty much immediately after that, Disney was like, okay, goodbye, Juncture Point. Apparently, Warren Spector tried to be like, I'll just leave if you'll keep the rest of them on because, you pay me the most. But Disney was like, nah, we're just going to close it.
And because of that, we will never get Epic Donald.
No, alas.
Even though that was something that they were apparently making.
He's the most powerful mage in the universe, so.
He's going to be like a time traveler.
I believe it.
I mean, he's going to be, fortunately, that story is going to be told in Kingdom Hearts 4.
Okay, my last favorite thing about Epic Mickey is they did have them design the model like a system where his ears move based on where the angle of the camera is, so that no matter what angle you're looking at Mickey from, he has the Mickey shape with his ears and his head.
Oh no.
So whenever you move the camera, like his model like actually changes and deforms so that the ears are always making the classic Mickey shape, no matter what direction you're looking at him from, which I thought was cool. I imagine that probably took a lot of work to implement.
I wish they had done that, but on a robot body.
If only.
Anyway, Epic Mickey is more or less impossible to play now, to my understanding. I don't know, the sequel came out on other platforms, so maybe there's a way to play the Power of Two, but people really didn't like that one, so...
Yeah.
So, lost to time until it comes out as a playable in-game game in Kingdom Hearts 4.
Yeah, there was supposed to be... There's rumors of a remaster or remake from PlayMagic coming out. But then PlayMagic released a remake of this game called 13, and it was awful. So, I wonder if they just canceled that project.
I guess we'll find out someday.
Someday.
So, you ready to go to school?
Yeah.
Alright, it's time for a new game. 2 Point Campus. 2 Point Campus is like one of our newest new games ever.
Is it? Came out last month?
I feel like that's pretty... I don't know.
I
just don't feel like we
stuff
often...
like that often.
Maybe we do. You're right. I was just thinking, like, I feel like a lot of the time, because we don't always refresh the hat constantly, we've never talked about a game that it's like, it came out this week, or anything like that.
It didn't come out
that would
this
be
week.
possible, because if it came out this week, then it couldn't be in the hat the week before. But anyway, it's quite new. It just came out in August. It's from 2 Point Studios, who, it's their second game after 2018's 2 Point Hospital, published by Sega, for pretty much all platforms. This is where I tell my embarrassing podcast story for the week. 2 Point Campus seems like the kind of game that I would like probably enjoy playing. I like Zoo Tycoon and such. I enjoy a management sim. And so like probably I would have played it, although it was like a little expensive. It's on Game Pass, but I don't have an Xbox. It's like a little expensive. But I had really convinced myself until this morning that the new game this week was The Last of Us Part 1.
Maybe next time. Maybe we'll pull it this time. You never know.
I just wanted Mickey Mouse to be a zombie.
Alas.
So I didn't play either of the games this week because my excuse was going to be that Epic Mickey is only on the Wii, and I didn't want to pay $70 for The Last of Us Part 1. For a while, it would have been like, I don't have a PS5, but now I have a PS5, so it's not an excuse anymore. But I didn't.
You played you played a little bit of the original.
That's what I was going to say. I was going to be like, I probably paid like 25% of the original before I didn't really have the gameplay skills for that game at the time and gave up. Or like went back to school or whatever. I don't really remember when I was playing that. Anyway. So that's why I didn't play either of the games this week, because I thought it was The Last of Us, and I was like, I'm not spending $70. Like, if I want to play this game at some point, I'll play it. But I think I own the original. So, anyway, that's my excuse for failure. Please accept my apology, listeners. Now I can talk about 2 Point Campus.
I think the remastered version is free with the PlayStation Collection, which you may or may not have access to also.
I think that I do have access to the PlayStation Collection. I still need to go through and price out PS Extra, PS Premium, but I think the PlayStation Collection you just get access to with the normal tier.
Yeah.
But anyway, not about The
Campus.
Last of Us, 2 Point Campus.
Tell us about it.
So in 2 Point Campus, right, it's a management sim, and that campus is a college campus. So it's your job to build and manage a university campus in 12 different scenarios, or as a sandbox, where you'll hire staff, build buildings, organize extracurriculars, make sure your students are making friends, they don't party too much, that they pay their tuition, that kind of thing.
Yeah. I see the appeal of games like 2 Point Campus and 2 Point Hospital, but I really like that very thing in the back of my brain that's very cynical and depressed and sad is like, man, these games are kind of dystopian, huh?
I feel like that's intentional.
Is it? Is it?
Enough of the reviews I read of 2 Point Hospital that were like, you start to see the patients just as dollar signs. And I was like, woof, there's some commentary there.
I guess so. But is it commentary?
Like a little.
If you're rewarded for starting to see them that way?
Well, but then it's like you understand why the hospital system is the way it is, right?
I guess so.
Look, I have no idea if they've thought about it that way or if it really is purely who cares? But the fact that you can think about it that way, I don't know.
That's fair.
Is something. And I think it's the same way with, I don't know. I was thinking with 2 Point Campus in particular because, I just visited, not really just, it was a couple months ago now, but it feels like just because I had not been in 5 years, just visited my old college campus, literally as they were tearing down my freshman dorm. I was watching them destroy the building, but they had built these fancy new dorms, and Clipboy Boyfriend talked to one of his old contacts there, and they were like, the university isn't sure how they're paying for these new dorms, but they're gonna figure it out. But it's there's these really super fancy new dorms with fancy new amenities, and they're beautiful and stuff, right? And presumably that's to attract people to pay the $75,000 a year that it costs now to go to the school.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? probably 2 Point Campus is more realistic than you'd think it is, except they probably care about their students more than the average administrator.
Yeah. Yeah, so the main sort of gameplay of 2 Point Campus is you have a campus, and you want to, you want your students to succeed, because the more your students succeed, the more that you sort of maximize your profits and can make an even better school, with more students who you can make happy and take their money from, for instance. And so it's sort of that cycle of spending money to make money, spending money to make money, and balancing different needs with your ability to actually pay for those needs as well.
So, big Zoo Tycoon energy.
Yeah. 2 Point Campus also adds a few, gimmicks in the fact that there are different, disciplines that you teach, but it's not necessarily just, science. There's, spy school and magic school and archaeology school, and each of these disciplines have their own gimmicks to them. Spy schools, sometimes moles will show up in the campus, and you have to find them and chase them out. Or witch students might put curses on each other that'll affect their ability to perform in school. Or the archaeology students can dig up priceless artifacts that you can then sell for money.
That's why I'm
that
saying...
one especially was
I just feel though, I don't know, maybe I give people too much credit, right? But I just sort of feel if you live in the world... You can't see it, you can't include that in your game without thinking a little bit, haha, this is bad. And, I'm sort of, intentionally using that.
I see your point with, the whatever, understanding why things are built this way by, putting yourself into the mindset. I do think the archaeology one, maybe they didn't think through entirely.
Fair enough.
That just seems like a thing that they put in there to add another element to the game.
Look, they're 2 Point is a British game studio, so if we just imagine it's in reverse from usual, right? The archaeology students are digging up British artifacts and selling them to other people.
Sure.
Never to be seen again.
Sure. Yeah.
Let's pretend.
Yeah.
So overall, right, there's a campaign mode with, as Emma mentioned, 12 of these kind of different schools with their different challenges. And then you can play it as an open sandbox too.
I think you have to do at least a couple of the given campuses before you can do sandbox.
Yeah, I read you have to finish 5 out of the 12. Which for some people were grumpy about, but I don't know, whatever. I find the campaign in some ways, this is not surprising, this is so on brand. I find the idea of the campaign with its specific goals more appealing than just playing the sandbox mode. But whatever. Okay, I am who I am.
Yeah, each of the campaigns, as you go, will give you missions that you have to fulfill. You'll usually have a couple of them at a time, and you have to try to get those completed by the time limit, essentially.
And so unlike 2 Point Hospital, where in that game, right, you're building a hospital and you have to cure patients, right? It's hospital. You know what hospitals do.
Yeah.
But in this one, in that game, right, your patient comes in, you cure them, they leave, you never see them again. In this game, your students move through in-game years, right? They come in as a freshman, move through a couple years of school, and eventually graduate. So there's a lot more, and a lot of what many of the reviews I read were particularly kind of delighted by, a lot more of this sort of emergent storytelling that comes through. If you get very attached to your students, or they develop friendships or relationships, and you can facilitate that through building certain items on campus.
Yeah.
And that
I did see some critique that was that aspect wasn't as fleshed out as they would have liked.
Yeah.
There's certain archetypes of student, not jerk. Jock. Or goth or whatever, that sort of impacts how they act, but it doesn't really impact what they want from the school, or other stuff like that. Like, so they used the example of, like, you know, the jock student was like, I would like more beautiful flowers on campus. Which they thought, you know, whatever. For a broad archetype, that seemed weird to assign it to a jock
Jocks
character.
can love flowers too, Emma.
Sure. But there wasn't enough to, like, distinguish each student from each other, and so they didn't really get that aspect. So mileage may vary on that part.
Same with the humor. I saw some reviews that were like, this game is really funny and I enjoyed it. And some reviews that were like, kind of missed for me.
Yeah. But it seems like they've got the management part down. So if you're really into management games, regardless of whether the other stuff is hit or miss, you'll probably enjoy this one.
And it sounds like we can probably expect some DLC down the road. I don't know if they've like actually specifically announced anything about that yet, but again, some of what I've read was like, yeah, with 2 Point Hospital, it released and like it wasn't like too hard, and then they released some DLC and we all cried. So 2 Point Campus, like a lot of the coverage around it right now is like it's pretty chill, right? It's a more accessible management sim because, you know, it's a little bit more focused on the students, and like each in-game year takes about 20 minutes, but then it pauses in the summer and you can take however long you want to kind of like set up for the next year.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a little bit chiller than some of its management sim brethren. And so because it's on Game Pass, it's like a good way to introduce yourself to the genre, is what people were saying. And has been a huge success, evidently. No doubt because of that Game Pass day one availability.
Yeah.
What 2 Point stuff do you want to see next? What simulation do you wish they'd make next? I'm sure there's more to come.
Man, I don't know. I didn't play a lot of management games. We had Zoo Tycoon. I wouldn't really want them to make 2 Point Zoo, I don't think.
I wish they would make like a zoo school as a DLC for this. That'd be pretty good. Because one thing I do feel like is missing from this is the ability to feed your students to animals.
True, I guess. Fair.
From any game, really.
Yeah. But yeah, it's sort of hard to, because you sort of need to have a setting that has a lot of like overlapping systems, right? Like healthcare and education are two very big, broad things that have a lot going on, and therefore can turn into a good management game because you have a lot of considerations that you have to balance. But I can't really think of anything else. I'm sure there is stuff. Don't get me wrong.
You don't want like 2 Point Congress?
I don't feel like that's quite right though, because you don't build buildings.
You could build
Congress.
like a lobbying station. I don't know. I feel like there's something you could do there, but it would have to be
that's
a little
not like a natural extension of that system. You know
You're
what I
right.
mean? Like
You're
hospitals and colleges are always building buildings and doing stuff and adding people and stuff like that. As like an institutional.
Yeah, you're right.
thing.
How about like 2 Point Apocalypse, right? They have a bunch of different scenarios for like the end of the world and you're rebuilding.
I guess. That's just a city builder then, though. That is nothing.
I mean, I know. Then it is just a city builder. 2 Point.
I used to do a mall, maybe.
Oh, mall. Yeah. I feel like we had Mall Tycoon, maybe, too. That just rang a bell.
I don't remember that.
Or like, it was like a... It wasn't like that, though. It was more like Monopoly. It's like Chain Restaurant Tycoon. I'm sorry, 2 Point Chain Restaurant. We did have Restaurant Tycoon.
Yeah. I was like thinking about like having lots of different things that you can build, right? Again, a restaurant, it's all food themed.
But I'm thinking like, yeah, okay, you're right. 2 Point Amazon.
No, I don't want that game.
Fair enough.
That's what, it's hard to think of something. I see why they picked hospitals and education. That's all.
Okay, then I'll ask the easier question. I said I want a zoo school if they were going to add some kind of like new school, what would you want it to be?
I don't even know all the schools that they have now.
Well, I know that. That's fine. What kind of school would you want in this game? Don't pick magic or archaeology or spy. Or night school. The K.
Yeah.
I
don't know. Do they have a drama school?
They definitely had a music school.
Because they have I felt like there could be something fun with like the drama students like pretending to be other students, and you have to like get them back on track. Like stop acting, go to your classes.
Good idea. It's like a cappella groups take over the school.
Sure, yeah.
What I want is a tie-in with Community. I want just like
you don't.
Yes, I do. It's just like I can put the dean's office somewhere in the study room.
All right.
Paintball section. Be great.
Sure.
Anyway, 2 Point Campus is something that it's like, right now it's like $40. And that's not to say, like, games are worth money. But
Yep.
I have a lot of games. And so I feel the luxury of saying I don't need to buy this game right now because I have plenty of games to play.
You gotta finish your games, Mel.
I'm really trying. Just pouring hours into Judgment. There you go. I'd like 2 Point Camurocho.
Okay.
I know that's just a city builder, but it's a silly city builder.
Yeah.
But like I feel like if this game, again, it's like if I had Xbox and I had Game Pass, I might give it a try. But since I don't, I might, if this game goes down to more like $20 or so at some point, might pick it up. Especially as we move toward the holiday season, and I need more like little games that I can play here and there.
Yeah, I really gotta start like making a list of like Switch games, you know, for the holiday season when I only have my Switch.
Well, I still have Pokemon to go back to, and we're gonna have to get Three Hopes. Anyway, 2 Point Campus could be a good one. I would like for a 2-player mode, though, like rival campuses. That would be fun.
That would be fun.
And a little less gross than, like, rival hospitals, even though I know that is a thing.
Yeah.
I feel like having the rival hospitals and trying to convince patients to go to one or another feels kind of like, ugh. But having rival colleges would be dope.
Yeah.
So are you ready to make a mashup?
Let's do a mashup.
Okay. It came to me, so here we go. It's 2 Point Disney, and like you start off from the humble beginnings of Walt Disney, you know, slowly building a company, and by the end of the game, it's like I'm gonna buy this company and build a campus, and I'm gonna buy this company and build, like, it's a company builder.
Man, talk about cynical.
No, we'd play it totally straight. People would
talk
be like,
about dystopian.
Oh, yeah, 2 Point Billionaire would be the name.
All right.
2 Point Monopoly.
We couldn't name it 2 Point. They name it 2 Point because they are 2 Point.
Boo Point.
The 2 Point doesn't have anything to do with the game. It's like saying, like, Sid Meier's Civilization.
Boo Point Billionaire.
Blue Point?
Boo Point.
Boo Point? What does that mean?
It's just 2 Point, but with bees.
Okay. I don't like that one.
Okay, fine. What have you got then?
It brings me sadness.
Well, not all games have to be bundles of joy, Emma. Did we learn nothing from Epic Mickey?
Did we learn nothing from The Last of Us? Inventor of narrative. I'm sorry, we didn't talk about The Last of Us on this show.
Yes, my zombie Mickey mashup that I had ready to go. Consigned to history. Sent to the wasteland.
You know, you could do like a, this isn't really a mashup, but you could do like a Fantasia crossover with 2 Point Campus.
What would that look like?
Like, it's sort of like, I guess, a offshoot of like the magic school, but now like Mickey's running around causing trouble, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like, every once in a while, Mickey causes, like, a disaster that you have to deal with. Because that's sort of what he does in Fantasia.
Right.
It's just sort of run around and mess things up.
I mean, I guess the obvious mashup is, like, a theme park sim. But that's pretty boring.
Yeah.
No, like, a theme park sim is a perfectly good game. It's just, like, not a...
There's a lot of them, though.
Yeah. Not a particularly unique idea.
From the crowd. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know.
I still feel like my cultural conglomerate simulator is the strongest one.
College, but spooky.
Okay, yeah.
You like run this college, but it's like sort
Spooky.
of like it's spooky. It's like dilapidated by forces you don't understand. And so while trying to keep the college from like collapsing, you have to like identify what caused this curse upon this building, and it was Mickey.
It was just a rodent infestation.
Yeah, so like a mystery management sim.
Okay, that's kind of interesting. Sometimes that's what people are frustrated with management sims, is like they can't figure out why their students are hungry or that kind of thing. But maybe we lean into that.
Yeah, add more of like an investigation aspect to providing for your students' needs.
That's interesting. Okay.
So maybe you can like pause the action and like look through things and try to figure out what's happening, as opposed to like trying like being taught the answer from some menu buried somewhere, you know.
Okay. I can see that. I can support that. I still think
it's a painting school, just to make the mashup a little clearer.
I still think my Disney Takes Over the World simulator has better social commentary, but that's okay. It's okay. At some point, one of the things can be like, you got defunded by the state government, and that's why things are dilapidated, and we can throw some commentary in there as well.
Okay, sure.
Well, folks, did you get sucked in by the hype of Epic Mickey and expect a truly dark and twisted game back in 2010? Have you played either of the 2-point management sims, or are you very into management sims? Otherwise, I feel like management sims are kind of like slowly coming back in a little bit.
Yeah.
After their heyday in the 90s. So have you played 2-Point Campus or its predecessor, 2-Point Hospital? Do you have a better idea of, I don't know, a game about Mickey Mouse as the dean of a college or something? If you have thoughts about any of those things or anything else about the show, you should hit us up on social media. We are on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at Talk This Podcast. You can also visit our website, www.talkthispodcast.com, where you can read all about the show, check out the games that are in the hat, and read our blog featuring long-running series, Clickbait Boyfriend, Split Screen, and various standalone blogs. But finally, and perhaps most importantly, if you enjoy the show, you should subscribe so you never miss an episode on Sundays at noon. We're on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, Spotify, Pandora Podcasts, online and on the app, Overcast, Pocket Casts, anywhere that you can find podcasts. Wherever you found the podcast today, you can find Talk This, and subscribe while you're there. Next week, it's a side quest, and it's Emma's turn to choose what we will be talking about.
No idea yet.
That's fine. Emma doesn't usually pick things based on the time of year, so it won't be back to school games.
We sort of missed the boat on that anyway.
Autumn leaves games.
We're not quite there yet, you know?
Allergies games.
That's year-round.
So it's a possibility. But Emma, what are we going to be talking about in 2 weeks?
In 2 weeks, our old game is going to be Journey.
Nice.
And our new game is going to be Citizen Sleeper.
Journey to a nap.
Yeah. That's what I'm about to do after this episode. Hey-o!
Hey! Nothing like a Sunday afternoon nap. Listeners, thanks for tuning into the show. We hope you enjoyed it. we hope you love Mickey Mouse. We spent a long time talking about Mickey Mouse. Emma, do you have anything to say to close us out today?
This week, I hope that you find Mickey in all that you see.